So I called this section 4.2 part 2 Jaden covalent compounds. What were covalent? Okay, first of all, that meant you were sharing electrons. How could you glance at a compound and tell that it was covalent instantly? Who remembers? Yep. Okay, let's put in brackets here. Because eventually, Joseph, I'll be giving you both ionic and covalent. And so the habit you want to start to develop right now is, okay, covalent or not, ionic or not, and then plan your attack. First of all, changing names to formula. Okay, the leftmost element is written first. Whichever one appears first, write it first. Which doesn't seem that profound, but I should mention that. Okay? And the ending of the second element changes to "ide" like before. So far, nothing really new, because for ionic, the metals were on the left anyways, and the right-hand thing, the non-metal, changed to "ide." Nothing new there. But remember, these are non-metals sharing electrons. And so what we do is we indicate the subscripts, these numbers, by a prefix in the name. And what are the prefixes? On the back of the periodic table that you have, you should have a little chart that has mono, di, tri. Find that chart so you know where it is. On the back of the periodic table, you do have a chart that has mono, di, tri. What comes after tri? Tetra. I forgot. Tetra. Okay. All that. Okay. That's what we're going to use in English in covalence to show how many of each there are. Say what? So, one more thing though. If there's only one of the first element, you don't bother putting a mono in front of it. And we'll talk about that. So the prefixes, 1 is mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 was tetra, 5 is penta. Do you have to memorize these? No. Do you have to know that you have them on your chart? Yes. Right? Hexa. Rarely will we go past that. How far do I go on the chart, though? Do I have the rest? What's 7? Septa? Hepta. That's right. Octa. And some of these you've seen before. Octagon, right? 9. Nova? Nano. Nano or nano? Nano? N-O-N-O? N-O-N-A. And Deca. So what does Deca mean? 10. What does N-O mean? 9. What does Oct mean? So that would mean October is the 8th month, right? And that would mean November is the 9th month, right? And that would mean December is the 10th. What? How come it doesn't work? Okay. So the answer is the calendars were created by Roman emperors. July was named after Julius Caesar, and his successor was Caesar, listen close, Augustus. What month do you think that was named after? Not only that, though, Caesar Augustus was not happy that his particular month appeared where it was, so he moved the months of the year around. Not only that, August used to have 30 days. How many days does July have? I'm born on this day, so I know. July has 31 because my birthday is July 31st. So Julius Caesar's month had how many days? 31. August used to have 30, and Caesar Augustus didn't want to be less than Julius Caesar, so he stole a day and added it, which is why there's 31 days in August. Think about it. Which month did he steal a day from? February. It's why February is shorter. Politics. Egos. And it's also why those numbers don't work. Politics. Egos. It's also why there's half the problems in the world today. Politics. Egos. At least we got the calendar straight, though. Anyways, I always mention that because I don't know if you ever thought about why is the 12th month beginning with a 10 prefix. Because after they were initially made, emperors came along and ruined the calendar. So, example, if I say to you xenon tetrafluoride, how many xenons are there? What's in front of the word xenon? In front of the word xenon? Nothing. That means there's only one, a mono, but we don't bother writing it. So the formula, Julia, is going to be as follows. What's the symbol for xenon? Xe? 1. Am I going to write the 1? No. Tetrafluoride. What's the symbol for fluoride? F. How many fluorides? What does tetra mean? You notice you can get there without the crisscross, uncrisscross trick. It actually tells you how many of each in the covalent. So I think in some ways that's easier, although you've got to recognize the words. Okay, fair enough. Dinitrogen tetrafluoride. What's the symbol for nitrogen? How many nitrogens are there this time? What's the symbol for fluoride? Now, if this was ionic, we would have reduced that. Is this ionic? No reduce, no lowest terms for covalent because these electrons are being shared. So H2O2 does not reduce to HO. It stays as H2O2. How can you tell it's covalent? Non-metal, non-metal. So now, I can't say that this is tougher, but we're adding to a series of checklists that we have to look at, Alex, before we jump on in. Right? Sorry, Jessica, you're right. I shouldn't have shot you. You just joined my class last day, didn't you? And I totally forgot. I'll take it back. So you ready? We're going to go from name to formula and from formula to name. So here's the formula. NO5, ionic or covalent, and how do you know? Now, do you have to memorize the periodic table, Matt? Say no. No. Will you memorize most of the common ones because you get tired of looking up? This is why I keep preaching, look at the pink sheet. I'm trying to teach you. Hopefully by the end of this unit, when you see nitrogen, your eyes glance in that first middle section and find it. Because it is, yeah? A little over to the right, but second row, nitrogen. Okay. So how many nitrogens are there? 1. That's technically mono-nitrogen, but if the first thing is a mono, we don't write the mono. So it's going to be nitrogen. How many oxygens are there? 5. What's the prefix for oxygen in a covalent? For 5 in a covalent. It's going to be nitrogen pentoxide. Technically, it should be pentaoxide, but often if there's 2 vowels, they drop the last letter and just go with the compound. If you write pentaoxide, I won't take marks off, but it's pentoxide. Yep?
Should the prefix be like capitalized or?
I think it's generally lowercase, but I flip-flop.
Okay.
Yep. Whoop. Lesson from last class uploading. SO4, is it ionic or covalent? S, what is that? Sulfur, metal or non-metal? Is it to the right of the staircase? This is covalent. Okay, so now instead of doing the Roman numerals uncrisscross, I can get it right from the formula. How many sulfurs are there? Just 1, so it's going to be sulfur How many oxygens are there? So what am I going to write? And you can write tetraoxide, but this would be tetroxide. We're going to come back to the sulfate ion in a second. Let's do the next one. Tetraphosphorus Deca sulfide. Okay. I see phosphorus. What's that? First of all, how do I know this is covalent? Because of the prefixes. And nonmetal, nonmetal. Okay? If there's Roman numerals, ionic. If we use penta, tetra, covalent. And I know it's a lot to keep track of, but, oh no, did I give you also on the back of you? So I got the chart on the back sheet. Did I do a Roman numerals chart on the back of your sheet or not? No, you know why? Because you don't get that on the provincials. I don't want to give you anything extra. So you can keep them straight. It just takes practice. What's the symbol for phosphorus? P? How many of them are there? P4. Sulfide, sulfite, or sulfate? Sulfide. So this is from the periodic table, sulfur. Please, though, right now, look at the back of your periodic table, and please notice, and I hate the naming, there is a sulfite and a sulfate. And don't get sulfite mixed up with sulfate, otherwise you'll have a bad fate. Okay? So sulfide, S. There is a sulfite and a sulfate on the back, yeah? And a chlorite and a chlorate. Anyways. Don't get me started. Hold me back. How many sulfides are there? 10. Do I reduce this? No. If it was ionic, yeah. Let's go back up one. The sulfate ion. Okay, this is an ion. It's 8. This is a polyatomic from the back of your sheet. What is it? I don't know. SO4? You could also call that, what? Sulfur tetroxide, but they just call that a sulfate ion because it shows up so often. Mr. Dueck screwed up because he did P4S10 and then he dropped it down to the next one and forgot to change the formula. So he's going to scribble that out. He's going to very, very quickly make up a formula. Mr. Dueck, haha. Let's go. ASBR3. Let me make sure I did that right. I think so. ASBR3. Covalent or ionic? And how do I know? Okay, non-metal, so covalent, check. So now I think still the ide rule, but with penta, tetra, mono, not the Roman numerals if it's multivalent. So how many arsenics are there? 1, which is technically monoarsenic, but we don't put the mono on the first one. Arsenic, what? Tribromide. I may change this homework assignment. Hang on a sec. Pause for a second here. Writing formulas for covalent. Covalent, covalent. How would, oh heck, phosphorus combine with oxygen? What if they don't give you the name or the formula? They just tell you what it's made out of, and you've got to figure out how many of each. Turns out, the nice thing is, the crisscross rule still works, just don't reduce. I know the formula is going to have a P here and an O. Andrea, I don't know how many of each, so now I go off in the margin. What's the ion charge on phosphorus? What's the ion charge on oxygen? It's going to be 2 of those, 3 of those. What would the name of this be? First of all, ionic or covalent? Covalent because it's non-metal, non-metal. What would the name be? Diphosphorus trioxide. Did I spell phosphorus wrong? Phosphorus, I might have. Phosphorus, no, my dictionary doesn't have that built in, but I'm pretty sure that's spelled right. So the crisscross rule still works. What's your homework? For starters, I'm going to say if you want to work on these from the last day, there's your first one. Okay, that's in the lesson. And for those of you that were away, Julian Connor, it's at the end of the lesson, so you can try those. Just a reminder, here's what I said. You don't need to write down if the original question is the long, lengthy name, Rachel, I don't care if you don't write it down. If it's the short formula, write it down because that's like 5 characters, and then write the name. Okay, try those. Then I'm going to, from today, nuke this, and instead I have a sheet that's got a little bit of everything on it, and then we're going to practice, 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 practice.